What is going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen. It is time for some Friday Night Live. What is up? What is up? Let me do a few little things real quick. Whew. I got like 10 seconds before we started. I looked up, realized I didn't have my hat on. I had to run down the hall and go get my hat. So hope everybody's doing okay. What's going on? All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to Friday Night Live. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about, well, first of all, welcome if you guys are listening to my podcast. Welcome. A lot of guys listen to it during the week while they're driving or whatever. So it's pretty cool going back and looking at those analytics and seeing how many people actually listen to this thing. It's pretty cool. So, whoo, jumping up, jumping down, and I ate some chicken wings tonight. Got me a little bit of heartburn going on. It is what it is. I need to lose some weight. All right, I'm gonna do a few little things over here. All I want to see is, let's see that chat. Hunter, thanks for the $5, man. Oh goodness, thoughts on bait fuel? I used it for most of last year, and it's good stuff. It's one of those things that it's better to have it than not. I think it covers up your scent. I really do. I think it's good stuff. So, but I'm gonna pull up my notes. I'm gonna run it a little bit behind. I got caught up watching a real cool documentary just a second ago. But get those notes going and we'll be ready to go. All right. Well, gee whiz. I got 64 inches of screen and I can't figure out where to put stuff. All right. Welcome. Where's everybody from? First of all, I like to see where people are hanging out. Somebody was in their truck on their way up to New York. Saw that earlier. John Delac. He's up there. Goodness. Frank, how you doing, man? Oh, Mass Sergeant, what's going on? How are you? What's going on? Todd Odom, what's going on, brother? He says, I'm literally wearing the same shirt. Man, I love these Realtree shirts. Not only good, are they good fishing camouflage, they're just daggum comfortable. The ones I like, though, are the ones that got the really, it's got a hood that goes like right to here, so it covers up everything when you're in the sun. I love the hoodies. I wear these around town. I typically only wear the hoodies when I'm fishing and just trying to, keep them getting too much sunburn. So, yo, Bass Cat, what's going on, man? What's going on? My son wants to go trout fishing tomorrow, so we may end up going to North Georgia somewhere and getting some lines wet up there. My wife's out of town; she's down in Florida. Spending the weekend with her roommates from college, having a girls' weekend, which is fun. Today is her birthday, though, so if she's listening, happy birthday, honey. She is 29 years old, and she'll be 29 years old next year and the year after that. James Lee from South Carolina, what's going on? Trevon Wilford just started fishing, first time going out tomorrow. Wow, been hammering your videos, man. Don't do too much of them. Your head will start spinning. You'll get dizzy. There's a lot of info in those videos, but yeah, man, good luck. Have fun tomorrow. Definitely. Paul Terry Outdoors says he finally caught a live. That's great, man. Dead Man from Delaware. My family, before I was born, lived in Wilmington for a little while. Let's see. James Larry. Adrian's from Canada. That's awesome. Trevon Wilford from Covington, Georgia. Go, man. That's my hometown. That's where my mama lives. That's where I grew up, right there off of Conyers Street. So, catch you later fishing. I love that name. Goodness. Welcome. Ronald Pendergrass. What's going, Mr. Pendergrass from Marietta? Patriot J Fishing from Savannah. There's Alabama. Goodness gosh. Oh my goodness. Illinois. And Tennessee. Man, you guys from all over the place. That's awesome. I'd sit there and read them all, but I'll read them. I'm not going to say them out loud. So Noctis Retop. He says, "Hey, Gene, wanted to say thanks for inspiring me to get back into fishing. I fished a lot as a kid and ultimately put it down when life got started." Same here. Same happened here. I've been watching for years. Awesome, man. Welcome. Welcome. All right. So, real quick, just to touch on a few more things. Let's see. My podcasts are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. We still got the Knucklehead tournament going on, which is it's basically, well, I've explained it. We're down to our last month, last part of our fourth month. So we got one more week left. I haven't looked at the standings this week, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. We'll talk more about that next Friday. My guide service is still up. If you guys wanted to go fishing with me, I guide on a trophy managed state-run lake right down the road called Heath Lake, part of Rocky Mountain Public Fishing Area here in Rome, Georgia. Guide the 1st through the 10th because that's the only days that lake's open. The only day I don't guide is Sunday because I'm going to church. So, but yeah, dude, $300 a day. You can't beat it. That's going to be a very short time discount, probably for next couple of months or so. And man, it's a lot of fun. We catch some good fish, and you learn a lot. And it won't be long before I have a kayak fully rigged up with electronics and everything else for you guys to jump into if you don't have one. So, all right, and that's it. Oh, let's get into some Q&A. Oh, goodness. Justin is at work. Justin 540 says, working night shift. Dude, I work night shift for pretty much my entire career as an x-ray tech. I worked weekend nights for 15 years. And then for the years I was in the Army, 6 years I was in the Army, I probably worked nights 70% of the time. So I don't know why I'm yawning so much. I got a nap today. So do you go fishing in live? I'm working on it. Unfortunately, my home lake that I spend most of my time on has no service whatsoever. But I'm really thinking about getting on to some lakes that have some service and doing some live streams. Haven't even picked what streaming site I'm going to use or anything else, but it's coming. So awesome. Hunter Nixon, this is his mom's birthday. Awesome. Oh, Mr. Lincoln, what's going on, man? Haven't seen you in a minute. Welcome. Don't ever change your profile picture because I'll never know who you are. You've had that one for a long, long time, brother. Oh, goodness. Adrian, he's new here. Welcome. Here's Alan Fowler says, good evening, Gene from Virginia. As someone who doesn't like snakes, especially when they try to get in my boat. I have to ask, have you ever had a snake try to get in your kayak? I had a water moccasin in Louisiana come to my kayak, but I hit it with a fishing rod before it had a chance to get in the boat. And it was a grown one. I had another water moccasin years ago. I was guiding a friend of mine and his young son in my big boat. We were tied up under a bridge catching crappie and had a huge water moccasin literally come 150 feet straight to the boat as fast as he could. And it was as fast as I could get that boat untied, and Dad untied it in the back, and we pushed off and got away as that snake was beating its head up against the side of the boat trying to find a way in. So I was not happy about that at all. I started carrying a shotgun with me. So, oh, goodness. Paul says, busy day today, 3 back-to-back ceremonies. Just got home trying to fish tomorrow. Goodness, man. Yeah, go unwind. He works a funeral detail for the U.S. Army. So, dude, you know me. You know how I feel about that. That's awesome. So, Hunter Nixon lives in Carrollton. Yep, I spent a lot of time in Carrollton over the years. Haven't been to Wadowee in a long time though. So, trying to get into some questions. A lot of you guys. Here's some Fayetteville, Arkansas. That's awesome. I love Fayetteville. It's a pretty little town. Let's see. Here's one. Calvin Johnson says, going to Norris Lake tomorrow. Been raining for a week. What should I start with? I wonder if Norris ends up getting pretty muddy during a lot of rain. I'm guessing it does. Probably get stained up pretty good. Those shallow, that rain will stir it up, create oxygen and everything else. But the biggest thing is when you have low visibility, those fish move shallow and they get real tight into cover or onto cover. So I'm going to run the banks and I'm going to be flipping in every little bit of cover that I can find. If I find flooded timber, and I don't know about Norris, I don't think it has timber if I remember correctly, but if I find flooded timber, I try to be able to fish areas of that flooded timber that if I make a cast, I can hit dry ground. I don't want big, vast amounts of flooded timber. I just want flooded on the bank and make it, where I can make a cast and hit the bank. And that kind of pinches the bass into that area if they're there. So, and always look for bait fish. So Ricky Leggett, he says, how's it going? New to the channel, but loving your videos so far. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm a pay laker, but starting to adventure into bass fishing, or into the bass fishing part of it. That's cool, man. That's cool. Yeah, dude, dig into that whole playlist that I have for beginners. I need to sit down and update it. I know I can find probably 3 or 4 or 5 more videos that will fit into that playlist. I haven't updated it yet this year, so I was thinking about that the other day. There's probably 2 or 3 more that I need to do anyway. So let's see. Man, a lot of you guys from Canada. What do you think of the new Obalas reel, or do you know anything about it? Don't know anything about it, so much so that I'm going to get over here and I'm going to type it in. Obalus. Who makes it? Is it a new company? Huh. Yeah, I don't know. That's a $50 reel. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. When I see, as much as I don't like, as much as I'm a cheapskate, I know where the line is on a good reel and a bad reel, and $50 scares the snot out of me. So I don't care if it says it's regular $100. I don't believe that a bit. Anyway, that's just me. Jason Starley, what's going on, man? He's a member of the Fluke Master Fishing Team. At least he better be if you pick Chad Hoover. I'm gonna come, I don't know, slash your tires or something. I don't know. He says, hey, everybody, getting hit with one last pop of shower here. Yeah, no kidding. Finally going fishing as soon as it moves out. Tight lines. And stay safe, everyone. Fishing in Three Rivers tournament here in Georgia tomorrow. Hey, dude, have fun, man. Catch all the freaking shoal bass you want. I'm jealous. I want to fish that tournament so bad. That's awesome. That's awesome. Matter of fact, I was about to fish the Three Rivers Throwdown. It was 2 nights before the tournament, or the night before the tournament, when Ryan died of an OD, so I had to come home. So I missed that tournament, and I was ready to fish, man. I had some great fish lined up. But good luck tomorrow, Jason, man. And we'll get a hold of you as soon as the last tournament's over for the Knucklehead. We'll get everything together. So, let's see. Michael Campbell says, I finally made the live. Brian Visco says, can you describe how can you set up the Mojo rig? I saw your video about it a few years back and I can't find it. Best is to go look for it, but I can try to describe it. So imagine a finesse Carolina rig. And so it's on a spinning rod, 6-8 pound test line, a small little cylindrical weight. It used to be called a Mojo weight. Oh goodness, who makes them now? It makes the really small tungsten ones. VMC sells some, and it's basically a pegged sinker about 6 inches above a 1/0 offset worm hook, and you put a straight tail worm on it. And what it's for is for dragging over and on top of underwater vegetation. And so it doesn't get down into that vegetation. You catch a ton of fish on it. And you can break off a lot of fish too, just from using that light line. But it's just a blast, dude. You'll have a good time. You can find it. Just go to YouTube and just look up how to fish a Mojo rig, and it should pop up. So, and just look for the really bad camera stuff, because it was back in the day when I had that. I was using a GoPro Hero 2. So, I might have even been using a Sony Handycam. Who knows? So Andy Leonard says, when using a bait caster and throwing some heavier baits, should I be sidearm throwing it or overhead? I've had issues slinging baits off throwing overhead. Yeah, I rarely ever throw overhead. When you're throwing heavy stuff, you got to think of it less as a cast and more of as a lob. You're literally, the best way to get good at it is look back at your bait before you make a cast. So on your back cast, look back at your bait and then make your cast, and it will force you to lob it. And so, and I hardly ever go right over my head. I'll go 45 degrees typically. So let's see. Name a bait better than a Ned rig in the river. Whew. It's hard to do. Hard to do. I love a Ned rig in the river with a little small craw bait on it, something like that. So let's see. Michael Campbell, I don't mess with. He says I don't mess with danger noodles. Talking about snakes. That's the first time I ever called them danger noodles, or heard them called danger noodles. I typically I call them nope ropes. So Skunko says, trying to catch my first frogfish, beat the eyes and ripped the tails off my frog, trying to get it back deep in the tulies. Recommendations for a durable frog. You know, the Gamakatsu or the Spro bronze-eye frog is pretty durable. It really is. Hollow body frog. If you're using the what they call a toad, which are the ones that have the kicking legs that are soft plastic, switch over to a bronze-eye frog or some type of a hollow body frog, and it'll last you a lot longer. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like that's what you're doing, is throwing a buzz frog, or a toad, as most people call them. So, let's see. Do I ever come up to Memphis, Tennessee to fish? I don't. I've fished a few times at a private place south of Memphis in Mississippi. Haven't done that in years though. My buddy my good friend owns a liquor store there in Memphis, and him and I will go fishing. We've been talking about it for like 5 years since the last time we did it, and we just haven't got back together. So, Augusta, Georgia just fished Betty's Branch. Man, I'm so jealous. Go look for those big old freaking shellcracker, man. Oh, I caught the Savannah River record in Betty's Branch years ago. I've got pictures of me lipping that 4-pound shellcracker, and I didn't know it was Savannah River record, and I cut it up and ate it. And so, not certified. I just put it on my own scale. It was a long son of a gun, and yeah, I didn't know any better back then, but I do now, and it's too late. But wonder how many people have done that, caught records and not known it. So, just getting back into fishing, I was curious, do you still have a boat, or are you primarily kayak fishing now? I am doing primarily kayak fishing because I've got everything in my kayak that I would in a boat, and it's just a lot more comfortable for me to fish out of, and I can do a lot more things with it. And not just getting into places boats don't get. I mean, I could sneak up on fish a whole lot easier too. But I'm in the process of selling my boat. If you guys know who Bass Quest is on YouTube, he's a guide up on Chickamauga now. He started guiding this last year, and some crackhead ran into the back of his boat and tore up his boat. And I called him and said, "Hey, dude, if you need my boat, it's sitting here in my barn. I'm not doing anything with it, and I'll sell it to you for a fair price." So that's what we're in the middle of. Nick came to Tuck, and he needed a boat to guide out of, and so he came down and picked mine up. So I'll get another one. I'm not saying I'm never going to fish out of a boat again. I'm just not going to have one for a while. So, see, Bailey Lieber, thanks for the $2 for this. Says, I can't catch even with your help. Do I give up? No, don't give up, man. Don't give up. Pick up some lightweight stuff, a little spinning rod, 8-pound line. You know, just start finesse fishing and watch tons of video on finesse fishing, and you'll catch fish. Don't try to catch a big one. Just try to catch a fish. Dakota Hubie, you're one of the best content producers. I appreciate it, man. If you guys noticed, I've only launched one, I think. I'm starting to look at shorts a little bit more seriously now. YouTube shorts and stuff like that, just for something to get the word out, not to get too much. You can only get so much information out in a 1 minute video. So, but I'm looking into that and seeing how that's going to work out. And I'm going to do a lot of recycling. I'm going to pull a lot of my videos and get some shorts off of my old videos. So, whew, goodness. I fish a rocky lowland reservoir. Is that a good lake for a chatterbait? Yeah, sure. A lake doesn't have to have grass to be a good chatterbait lake. The biggest thing to understand about a chatterbait is you want to be bumping up against everything you can bump up against, whether it's the bottom, where it's the rocks, or anything else. The KBF National Championship last year on Kentucky Lake, my pattern was to sit shallow, throw out deep on points, and slow roll a chatterbait up through the rocks. And I literally beat the blade and the paint off of 3 chatterbaits in 3 days, and doing that, and caught enough fish to finish 5th and 6th. So, or finish, what was I, 6th or 5th? 5th. And so, but yeah, dude, chatterbait is really, really good. You just, like I said, you just got to beat it up against stuff. Let's see. Somebody asked Andrew Watson where Betty's Branch. It says North Augusta, South Carolina. So it's Betty's Branch. It's on the Savannah River below Clarks Hill Dam. I used to live 2-3 miles upriver from it on Betty's Branch. Or actually, no, I used to live on Betty's Branch, and so in one of the subdivisions. And so my kids used to go out there and fish all the time. What I loved is that you get the water coming out of the dam in the summertime, and it was always in the 60s. And so it was like having a swimming pool in your backyard. Just go out swimming in Betty's Branch and cooling off. So great. Let's see. Any confidence colors for ultra clear water? I've got 2. I got green pumpkin and watermelon red flake. And I love watermelon red flake in ultra clear water, just because you can see through it. It's more clear than it is anything. Got a little bit of green, got some red flake in it, and I've always done really, really good with it. And the clearer the water, the clearer the bait I want it to be. So watermelon red is definitely a really, really good color. Let's see. Willie Galloway says, good evening, sir. New to bass fishing. Really enjoy your live chat and videos. Willie from Killeen, Texas. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I love Texas, man. Love it. Let's see. Just wanted to say thanks. This is from Jeff Holland. I started watching you about 6 years ago, and I got back into fishing. With your help, I'm helping others to be better anglers. That's awesome, man. That's what I want to hear. Definitely, that's what I want to hear. I'm trying to figure out why I've got to double click all these things to open them up. Drive me nuts. But thanks, man. I appreciate it. Let's see. Backwoods bassing. We'll do that again. We'll do that one day, definitely. Now that I got those river boats, I need to have an excuse to take them out. So, let's see. Bryce Gibbs, my boy, what's up, man? He just wanted to drop in and say hi. Hope all is well, brother. My bearded redheaded wonder. What's going on, man? Him and I trash talk. You want to hear some trash talking? Get him and I together fishing. Good gosh almighty. You would think we hated each other as much as we trash talk. Unbelievable. All right, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. Ever fish in Canada? I fished in Canada. My dad, when I graduated high school, my dad splurged and took me on a caribou hunt up in northern Quebec. And I caught Arctic char until I couldn't stand fishing anymore. It was amazing. Of course, shot two bull caribou as well. But man, I loved the fishing. So Jason Starley, Genius Team Fluke Master going to try and meet up for pre-fishing before the Knucklehead event. I haven't thought about it. That's something that when we find out who the last person is, have a little online meeting and try to discuss all of that. Jason, I want to talk to you personally for something real when you get a chance. Probably let's talk Monday or Tuesday of next week, and I just want to give you a heads up on something that's really really cool. Anyway, let's see. Michael Campbell says, I have an Old Town 2019 model. The seat to me is uncomfortable. What would you recommend to make it comfortable? A kayak cushion, spelt with a K. I've got one. My son's got one, and it's just a really, really comfortable, high density, kind of memory foamish. It's not memory foam, but it feels like it when your butt's on it. And it really does make it comfortable. Also, if there's straps, tighten up those straps too. I mean, Bonafide does it too. Your straps, when the seat's brand new, the straps stretch, and you have to tighten them up 2 or 3 times before you break them in. But after a while, they can get loose too. So tighten up your straps, see if that helps. So, Eddie Mashburn, he says, hey, Fluke, never have fished a Senko or a wacky rig before. I ordered Senkos and wacky setup after watching your latest wacky rig video. Caught 2 largemouth with it today. That's awesome, man. That's a great way to catch fish. It really is. I don't like fishing a wacky rig. I honestly would rather watch paint dry, but it does catch a lot of fish. I just have other preferred methods over, overfishing one. So. Ooh, that's a tough one. John Choi says 13 Fishing Inception G2 versus a Daiwa Tatula Elite bait casting reel. Man, I love the G2s. I love it. I have beat the living crap out of the ones that I'm using. I think I have 2 that I've been using primarily in my setups, and I have beat them to death, and they've been really, really good. I really feel like they're one of those virtually indestructible reels. I mean, you can always beat them up. You can always destroy a reel, but I just feel like it's one of those reels that it will last you a long time. But I love the design of a Tatula. I really do. It's another one of those beefy type reels. I haven't fished a Tatula in years. I fished the original Tatula before there was the Elite, so I can't really comment on the Elite. So, let's see. I can't imagine fishing out of a kayak. I'm a T1D and have a torn labrum in my shoulder and hip. Shoulder gets fixed this winter out of after pheasant season. That was my dad's favorite game animal, was pheasant hunting. He loved it. I don't paddle. I've got in my hip, I've got a torn labrum in my hip, so I can't pedal. And I got 2 bad shoulders that so I don't paddle much. I have been able to paddle in the past, but they're just getting worse and worse. But I have a trolling motor on the front of my kayak, and I go everywhere. And I can fish all day and then some with just an 80 amp hour battery on the back. So yeah, dude, these days you can get a kayak, you can throw it in the back of your truck, throw a trolling motor on it, and go. And it's so much fun. So thanks, Brian the Fisherman Baker. Appreciate it. 511 Bassin says, what weight swim jig would you recommend, and what kind of trailer? I primarily throw a 3/8 ounce until I need to fish 10 feet or deeper, and then I'll throw a 1/2 ounce. But it's almost always a 3/8, and I have 2 different types of trailers, either just a standard 3 1/4 inch paddle tail, or I take a Rage Menace. I turn it, Menace has got 2 little claws. I turn it vertical and rip the top one off, and I use that as a downsized trailer to make it look a lot smaller, like a smaller bait fish. So those are the 2 I primarily use on a swim jig. So, Gene, what's your thoughts on Cash and rods? They're good rods. That's a good company. I got a lot of friends that are sponsored by them, and they all, they've got a lot of integrity and stuff like that, and they don't complain about them at all. So yeah, they're pretty good. Have you ever go braid to leader on bait casters or only spinning outfits? Right now, only spinning outfits. I tried braid to leader for a long period of time. Even with the FG knot, it was just too big of a knot because I primarily use 50-pound braid. I bet if I used 40, 30 or 40, I would have been a little bit better with it, but I almost always use 50 or 60 pound. Just easier for me to cast. It doesn't backlash as many times. So let's see. Mike, what's going on? Let me see. What weight chatterbaits do you use and when? I have two weights with any jigs, really. I have 3/8 and ½ ounce. I hardly ever throw. Only time I ever throw a 1/4 ounce, and it's usually the Mini Max because that's the only one I've got in 1/4 ounce. I'm throwing that in Florida in super shallow grass when the bass get up there in the spring. But all the other time, it's 3/8 and ½ ounce. It's usually a ½ ounce if I'm just grinding the bottom. Even in 3 or 4 foot of water, it's a ½ ounce just because I want to keep it on the bottom. But if I'm not grinding the bottom, I like a 3/8. Like if I'm trying to stay close to the bottom and bump into things that are up off the bottom, I'm throwing a 3/8 ounce. So let's see. Elizabeth, see, I'd love to know the knucklehead date so I can make appropriate arrangements. I'm a planner. You know what? I would like to know them too. I really would. I don't. I'll talk to Chad about that in the next week or two and figure that out. So, oh, here's a good one. I haven't had this one in a long time. Mike says, your opinion, aluminum, plastic, or fiberglass boats the best and why? So for a bass boat, aluminum for me was always best because, and with a lot of people, you can you can finance a bass boat for years and make it affordable. But can you afford to take it out and fish with it every day that you want to go fishing? So I went from I borrowed JJ Pollux, the owner of JJ Magic. I borrowed his boat for about 3 months, and it was $100 to $120 a day, and that's when gas wasn't super expensive. Went to an aluminum boat, went down to $20 to $25 a day to fish. That was towing it to the lake. That was running around all day. That was coming back. And so aluminum boat is cheaper to fish with. You can't go 65 miles an hour. You can't go in rough water, but it is just a great platform to get out and go fishing. And I fished plenty of tournaments in it. Heck, I fished big boat tournaments in a 14-foot John boat with an 8-horse tiller on the back and a trolling motor up front. It can be done, but you just got to know your limitations. I love fishing out of a kayak. For me, it is the best boat that I've fished out of, mainly because I can catch them. I get super close to them. My electronic I can see a ton more detail with them with my electronics set up the way it is. There's nothing getting in the way, like a motor in the water or stuff like that, of the signal of the transducer, and I can customize it the way I want to, and just a fun boat to catch out of. And if you've ever caught a fish over 5 pounds out of a kayak, you know what I'm talking about. There is nothing like catching a big fish out of a kayak and getting pulled around. It is a blast. So much so I'll even turn my spot lock off when I catch a big one, just so it can tow me around a little bit. So, Christopher Sickles, Pacific Northwest Transplant in Ohio. Your videos are huge help for making the leap from salmon to bass. Cool, man. I've caught a couple of salmon out there in Oregon, so that was a lot of fun. It was back in '95, so I'm older than dirt. All right, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit more. Sorry if I'm skipping some questions. Matthew P. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name. It almost looks Polynesian. Anyway, so if you can only carry one or two rods for a trip, what would they be for being able to fish almost any bait or method? I look at it as not fishing any bait or method, but fishing my confidence methods and what I tend to throw the most. And so I'm going to always have a medium spinning rod, always. And then I'm always going to have a medium heavy bait caster. The medium heavy bait caster is going to have 15-pound line. The spinning rod's going to have 20-pound braid to a fluorocarbon leader. Usually about 8-pound test is what I start with. And yeah, that'll be the two, because that would cover a large section of what I throw the most. And even if it doesn't, even if I'm throwing something that doesn't particularly, wouldn't normally work on them, I can make them work. I definitely can. So I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. I did get a 15-minute power nap today, but my wife got up at 4 this morning to leave to go to Florida. So that's why I keep yawning. Been up a long time for me. Let's see. What would you recommend tomorrow on Guntersville? Goodness gracious. Swim jig. I would be throwing a white swim jig tomorrow offshore on Guntersville. So Adam Patron's in the house. What's going on, Sergeant Major? How are you? I fell in love with fishing all over again. This is from Robert DeYoung. I fell in love with fishing all over again the day I bought my kayak. That's cool. That's cool. Let's see. Andrew Watson, can a black pack hold up to drill to make a hole for power cords? I currently keep my battery in J crate with pass through type. Yeah, it can. It's pretty stout, dude. It really is stout. And I've got a couple of buddies who have rigged theirs up with plugs and stuff and keep their battery in a black pack. So Bass Thumbs Fishing on his YouTube channel, he has a couple of videos about what he did with his. So let's see. All right, I'm just going through comments. Beaten Bank says, I always tell people if they want to learn how to fish a bait to look you up. You got a lot of good videos to learn from. Man, I got a ton of videos. I'm at that point now where I don't want to do a video for a fourth time for specific subjects. There's only so many that you can do, and so it's hard trying to come up with new ideas when I've already done a lot of them. I got 800 and something videos, and so but I got a few ideas down up my sleeve, that's for sure. Do you carry spare spools for your reels? Where is the best place to buy them? Mainly talking spinning reels. I don't carry any spare spinning reel spools. I do carry, when I'm traveling in my truck, I will have, I've got a box that has a bunch of baitcaster spools in it. I bought them from 13 Fishing's. They used to have a section of their website that was all for customizing your reels, but they were only $30 a piece. And I bought a bunch of them over time, and I keep them with different size lines on them. So I'm not wasting line. I can pull the spool out of one spinning or one bait caster if I need a different size line, or I need to switch from fluoro to braid or braid to fluoro, and I'll just switch the spools out, and it saves me a ton of money over time on fishing line. But like I said, I only do that when I'm traveling a lot, and that's been a really, really handy box. Let's see. What's going on, A-Lud? He's a member of my YouTube channel. He says, good evening, Gene. I caught most of my bass last year on a wacky rig. Why do you dislike them so much? Could be me. I'm in New Jersey, and it's possible all bass up here are wacky. Who knows? So there's a couple of reasons why I don't like a wacky rig. One is I like to feel my bait. And throwing a bait out and letting it fall on a slack line, and I'm not much of a line watcher, so watching the line, this is the classic way of fishing the Senko, okay? Watching my line has never been my thing. That's one thing. Second thing is, back in the day, before YouTube started, I was a moderator at Bass Resource and on their forums. And we had another moderator who was pretty coarse. Let's just say that. He ruffled a lot of feathers, but if anybody at that period of time posted anything about a knockoff bait like a Yum Dinger or something like that, he would all but ban the person. And it honestly just pissed me off. And so I personally made it got a really bad opinion about Senkos because this guy was so mean to people that would fish anything other than a Senko. And kind of like the Shimano posse back in the day too. But I was just like, man, and I warded off Senkos. Now, don't get me wrong, I have 25 pounds of Senkos in my barn, and I always have some in my truck. And I do fish them, but I fish them in other ways other than wacky rigged and watching them sink. So that's the long story of it. There's no short story. So goodness. Ricky Jennings, man, thanks for the $5, brother. I just saw it over here on my other chat. There it goes. It just popped up over here. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see. I just answered this question, but I'll answer it again. Mailman says, speaking of swim jigs, what's your best trailer, hands down? So my best trailer is I take a Rage Menace, and it's got two claws. I turn them horizontal instead of vertical, or vertical instead of horizontal. I turn them vertical, and I rip the top one off, and that's how I put it on the hook. And so it's just one of the legs out there kicking. It just looks like a small bait fish. And I typically do that with a white one or some type of a white or silver swim jig. So let's see. CJ Franklin, he says, Friday Night Live's getting me through Friday night CQ. Dude, I remember those days. I'm so glad I was never an NCO. Dude, if I'd have been an NCO, I'd have choked myself during CQ. Oh my gosh. If you guys don't know what CQ stands for, it means charge of quarters. In other words, he's the babysitter of the barracks tonight. Oh man. Dang. My last barracks I stayed in was at Schofield Barracks in the clinic. And so they renovated all of the clinic except for the barracks. Like every single wing of the clinic, and the barracks were in the clinic, but every single wing got renovated except for the barracks. And we had soldiers falling through concrete floors. It was so dilapidated. And my bunk was right next to the wall, which was next to on the other side of the wall from my bunk was a closet. And that's where the fire alarm main controls were. And it was faulty. And about once every 3 or 4 nights, halfway through the night, you'd get a beep right on the other side of the wall. And that beep would just go. And I would go back to sleep, and I'd finally sleep, get sleeping while it was going. But that freaking beep made me miss my alarm going off so many dang times. Luckily, I had my NCOIC was the barracks sergeant, and he knew the issue. And so he literally would just walk over from the department and wake me up, and I'd jump up and go to work. It only happened 2 or 3 times. Man, I hated that beep. Finally, we got it after I got married and got out of the barracks. We got a new CO that came in and basically walked over to some new barracks they were building on post and commandeered them. Basically said, "These are ours. We're moving our soldiers in here. Y'all ain't doing nothing about it. Bye." So it was pretty cool to see that happen. Anyway, old Army stories. Do you have a video on how you electrified your kayak? I have a couple of them. I probably need to do another one. I'm just not going to rig a kayak this year. But yeah, I've got 2 or 3 of them about how I did it. The one that I think I did the most on was the one where I was at Westbrook Supply Company, the paddle shop in Atlanta, getting it rigged up. So how do you mount your transducer on your kayak? I have mine up in the covered transducer housing, but I feel like I get a lot of noise. Is it better to use an arm or just have it in open water? Use the arm. Really, especially if you get side scan, use the arm. I don't know what kind of kayak you have. Now, with a Bonafide, we have the center hatch, which is called the dry pod. And it's a hole that goes all the way through. So we mount our transducer on the bottom of that dry pod so we can remove it and put it back in and take it out, so on and so forth. And And so I'm able to put a spacer in it and make that transducer sit perfectly just below the kayak, so I get a really good signal, and it's directly below me, and it stays there. So it's pretty nice. So that's what I love about a Bonafide, or one of the things I love about it anyway. So Beaten Bank says, I still use your method for fixing crooked flukes. Works great. Oh, yep. My old cooking class. I'll boil some water on the stove and dip them in for several seconds until they get a little soft, and then lay them on a paper towel and run them straight and let them cool off, and they stay straight. Zoom is notorious for putting flukes in their bags and having them all cockeyed and they get all bent up. So, oh. Mailman, this is a good one. Man, you guys are bringing back some great memories. It says the first Fluke Master video that I watched was you giving a tutorial on how to flip a jig, or how to pitching a jig, and you were tossing it into a piece of PVC pipe in your backyard. That's awesome. Mailman, I had pneumonia while I was filming that video. If you notice, I was breathing real heavy, kind of like what I'm doing today. But I get pneumonia quite a bit whenever I get a cold, but I had it bad right then. So surprised I didn't pass out while trying to do that video. Hey, that's a good idea, Mike. Mike Sensor says, instead of a video on how to fish, maybe pick some popular lakes in the southern U.S. and talk about how to decide where to go fish with weather, seasons, cover, and etc. on those lakes. That's a good idea. I probably wouldn't do much in the summertime, though, especially here in Georgia. The lakes around here get ridiculously dangerous in the summertime. So like Altoona and Lanier and that kind of stuff. Some of the smaller lakes I could do in the summertime, but in the early spring and stuff like that, I could do that definitely in the fall after people go back to school. So, does anyone make a storage container for the JJ's Magic bottles? They do not. I can't remember what the size. A 10-cup. I don't want to say it's a 10-cup sealable Tupperware container works great. I tried to get Plano to do it back before Plano was bought by Pure Fishing. I was talking to Plano, trying to get one designed so it could hold those bottles, and it died when they got bought by Pure Fishing. So I wasn't able to get back to that. So, see, I'm in Dalton, not far from you. I've been to Rocky Mountain Public Fishing Area, but what do you consider your home lake? That's what I consider my home lake, is Rocky Mountain. It's 10 minutes down the road. And so I'm there all the time. The game wardens there are so funny. They joked a couple years ago. They said they're going to rename it the Fluke Master Lakes, because I'm there all the time. I've had my mail delivered there, guys. I had FedEx pulled up and delivered a package to me at the boat ramp one day. It was crazy. So, let's see. Let's see. What's your favorite 13 rod and reel from the new lineup? I have not messed around with too much of it. My favorite ones are all the Gerald Swindle rods. You know, the Meta rods are great. I love if that's what you're talking about, the new lineups. I know we got a bunch of new stuff coming out of ICAST. I just haven't gotten the heads up on what it is. But yeah, the Meta rod with the G2 reel they're sick, man. It really is. And that 7'3" medium heavy is one that I really have fallen in love with, mainly because I've been throwing a light wire jig for 3 months now. So, let's see. Michael Moon. He says, Dad said we'll be in touch about the kayak scene. That's awesome, man. I'm selling him one of my old kayaks. So, a lot of people talking about JJ's Magic bottles. For JJ's Magic bottle, put them inside a plastic pill bottle. That's a good idea. For sure. What I've done, I'll tell you what I did is when you buy them from JJ's Magic or buy them from, I think they even come from from Tackle Warehouse like this. They come wrapped in round tubes. They're cardboard that's been wrapped and taped up. Well, I leave them in those tubes. I'll cut them off a little bit so the lid sticks out, and then I'll tape those tubes together and I put them inside my a bag that's inside my tackle box is what I do, and it holds them. The biggest thing about JJ is you just got to keep it upright. If he lays on its side and the temperatures change, they tend to leak out. So, oh, CJ says he's a CQ as a drill sergeant. Oh, but my bona fide is in the truck and ready to go in the morning. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I would not want to be a drill sergeant at this day and age. Definitely not, dude. Back in '96 when I went in, it was a lot different, and it was, I couldn't do it now. That's all I'm gonna say. I'd pull my hair out. So, Greg Moser, what branch did you serve in? I was in the Army. I was in the Army Medical Corps, so I was an X-ray tech and a medic. So, from '96 to '02. Let's see. Dylan Ivan says, Gene, I hated fishing as a kid. I didn't start fishing until about 3 years ago when I first got going. I watched a ton of your videos, different techniques, baits, lures, rod setups, and the whole 9 yards. That's awesome, man. Ever thrown spinner baits, Texas, Carolina? Oh, I've thrown spinner baits, Texas, Carolina, crank, flukes, Ned, weedless, chatterbaits, buzz baits, every color you can recommend. You've recommended for each clarity, and honestly, I've caught maybe 6 bass the entire past 3 years. Oh no! Oh, you got to find some different water. So I actually, let me back up a little bit. I was at that point probably 20 years ago where I felt like I still couldn't catch fish every time I went out. I threw the whole book, I mean, everything I had at them. And then I stopped and I was like, you know what? I'm looking at this all wrong. I really need to focus more on what makes the fish tick. Where are they going to be and why? How to find them. And that was the biggest thing is I studied the bass and I studied the bait fish and I studied the ecosystem that they lived in, and I learned a lot of things about what makes them tick and what makes them eat and what makes them not eat and stuff like that. So my biggest suggestion to you is start focusing on how to find them before you focus on how to catch them and what to catch them with. And don't put so much emphasis on catching them. Put more emphasis on getting bites. And if you get a bite and miss them, you still got a bite. You still found them or able to get one to do something. So that's what I would recommend. It really changed the way I looked at fishing, and it went from catching, a couple every few times out to catching them every time I go fishing. So, I love that question. That was a good question, man. Really was. Let's see. Here we go. Hunter, I was trying to find where you kept hitting the return, and I got you got half your comments. I finally found the full comment. He says, I know you're sponsored by 13, but what do you think of Dobyns rods? So it's more what I think about Gary Dobyns. He's one of my favorite people. And I know a lot about his history, and I was on their pro staff when he first started Dobyns rods way, way back in the day. And I can tell you, he's one of the best designers on the planet, rod designers. He designs the tapers. He designs everything. And you can't go wrong with his rods because of who he is. And I know he stands behind his rods, and just history tells you that he stands behind his rods. Just a really good dude. Not somebody you want to piss off, but he's a really, really good dude if you stay on his good side. So I get to see him at ICAST, hopefully. He's always fun. I actually asked them for a sponsorship before 13 sponsored me. Just FYI, they turned me down. Oh, goodness. I wonder what he thinks about it now. I'll have to ask him. Hey, Gene, serious question. How do you make your wife understand you need to fish for a mental break? It's what I do for a living now. It's what brings in the pay. It brings in the money. So yeah, it's a whole lot different. But before that, it was so if I need a mental break, I leave the cameras in the truck. Is what I do. Is I just go fishing, and unfortunately, I tend to do that a lot. But back in the day, it was more or less I had to schedule it, and I would fish on Mondays after I got off work. I'd get off of work at 8 in the morning, run home, get my tackle together, jump in the car, go to my buddy's house. He was a preacher, so he had Mondays off, and we would go fish all day. So that's typically what I would do. So Mondays were always my fishing day. But what is my favorite state to fish in? Early in the spring, it's Florida. Like January, February, it's Florida. March, April, May, June, it's the Southeast, Alabama and Georgia, or actually Alabama and my lake down the road. I don't like many lakes in Georgia. And then September, heat of the summer, it's Michigan and Minnesota. I love La Crosse, Wisconsin. La Crosse is another one I go to quite a bit in the summertime. And but yeah, that's wintertime. I really don't have a favorite state. I usually stay home. It's usually because of Christmas and all that stuff. So blasting and casting. Will you be at ICAST this year? If you are, can't wait to meet you. And during the summertime, would you throw a jig or a Texas rig in the summer? I usually throw a Texas rig. I have a jig tied on and throw it, but I usually have more luck with a Texas rig. But yeah, I'll be at ICAST all 3 days. I usually am walking around. I'm usually on call for most of my sponsors. Like if somebody shows up, needs a video, they give me a text and I haul butt to their booth and I do all that stuff. So you'll see me running around somewhere. I just can't, I don't have a schedule much. I usually keep it pretty loose. So let's see. Riska says, I caught my first bass the first time out on my SS 127. That's awesome, man. Porter Bob, do you miss your bass boat? Sometimes I do. He says, and what do you like the most about kayak fishing? Will you go back to a bass boat? The only reason why I would probably go back to a bass boat is so I can guide out of it. Would probably be the only reason, or take my family out and that kind of stuff. That's why I'd like to have a boat, but I'm not ready. I love guiding out of a kayak. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed teaching people about their electronics and that kind of stuff from a kayak. But what I like most about kayak fishing, dude, it's just being tugged around by the fish you catch. I really do. I have a whole lot of fun with these, these real strong, big bass that I've been catching lately. But the biggest thing is it's a lot less. There's a lot fewer problems that I have with it than I did with a bass boat. I don't know if it's because there's no gas or no motor or that kind of stuff. And electronic stuff typically, once you get it down right, it works great. The only thing I ever have problems with is camera equipment. And audio and video stuff is always what I have problems with. I don't really have much of a problem with my kayak anymore. So that's the biggest thing. And I've had motors catch on fire. I've blown motors. I've done a bunch of things, but I've never had serious issues with my kayak. Knock on wood. So, do I ever fish for bass with live bait? I haven't since I was a teenager. I just enjoy using artificials. So, see. Have you fished a BFS setup? I have. I fished a little bit the other day. I've got it in my lineup now to fish it even more. I enjoyed it. The rod that I've got is spiral wrapped. If you guys know anything about custom rod making, it's one of those things that was always a custom deal where your first guide on the bait caster was on top, but then it worked its way down, and by the time you got halfway down the rod, the guides were all on the bottom. Therefore, you can You can fight better with light line. You have a lot less issues with breaking the rod. So what happens with a bait caster when you're fighting a fish, especially a big fish, is the tip top guide on the bait caster is on top of the blank. It's not on the bottom of the blank. So being on top of the blank, you got the line pulling on that guide. It twists and torques your blank over 180 degrees. And so when you have a light action rod with a very, very thin tip at the end, like you do with these new BFS bait casters, having it twist over like that is not a good thing. It will break your stinking rod. It'll weaken it up and it really make it bad. And so the one I have has guides that go all the way around, and by the time it gets to the end of the rod, they're on the bottom, so you don't get that twist on the rod, and you're less likely to have blank failure. So, but so far so good. I haven't caught any fish on it yet, so I'm going to hold off talking about it until I really figure it out. So, Mekong Yang, what's my PB? 10 pounds, 12 ounces is my biggest one. So, have you read Knowing Bass by Keith A. Jones? I was able to get a copy at a decent price halfway through. It lots of big words, but very interesting. Yes, I have it right. Oh, I thought it was right here in this. I got it somewhere. Got it in my. I've got a whole bunch of old, very expensive now bass fishing books that have really helped me out a lot. Knowing Bass was a good one, a really, really good one. So. Just hard to find now, from what I understand. Let's see. Jason killing and grilling. That is what I'm talking about, bro. Anyway, I just smoked up some chicken wings tonight. That's why I'm having such a hard time talking, because I might have overate a little bit. So what's up, man? Just found your channel on jig fishing. Make my own spinner baits and have been having some great luck here in Ohio. Check out some of my videos. Going to use your jig tips to change it up. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love fishing up that way. I haven't fished much in Ohio, unless you consider Lake Erie. But yeah, definitely, dude. I love it up there. Let's see. Is it possible to add a trolling motor setup to a kayak for under 300? You probably could. You could probably find your best bet is to find a used trolling motor. You won't find one that's like GPS, spot lock, remote control, all the bells and whistles and stuff, but you'll find one that'll push you around a little bit. So, but a good thing about trolling motors is if they are halfway taken care of, they'll last you forever. And so, yeah, you should be able to find one for about that price. But I'd look used. So. Oh. All right, couple more questions. With 13 reels, do you find you have to crank the tension up more than a Daiwa or Shimano? I have a Concept A3 and C2 with both are this way. Yes, because they're Tyler, they've got a different material on their brake system. The little brake pads are made of something different. I don't know what. I just know from experience, and I remember when they changed them, and they did it to make them more durable. They got a little bit different material. They last longer. You don't have near the issues that you had in the past with them, and so it's a lot smoother. So you do have to click it up just a little bit more, but not much more. But it was enough to make a difference when they first did it. So. Blasting and casting, what's your favorite time of the year to fish? It'd have to be spring, but I love summer. Whenever I'm catching fish, I catching giants all summer long on certain lakes, but other lakes, I'll blank every single day if I go to them in the summertime. So, have I ever ice fished up north? Yes, I have. I fished Lake of the Woods ice fishing. It was great for about 4 hours. And see, I don't drink. And if you weren't drunk enough after the end of the day and, you weren't catching fish, you're just sitting in a box staring at a toilet hole all day, trying to catch a fish out of it. I went crazy after day 2. And so you would think I was drinking. I was so loony. So day 3, we jumped on snowmobiles. We got permission to go into Canada, got a license, so on and so forth. Did it legally and went into Canada and went and caught fish. So, all right. Well, guys, if you're interested in going on a guide trip with me, like I said, I'm going to have here pretty quickly. I'm going to have a kayak rigged up for my clients. So even if you don't have a kayak, you come on out down here to Georgia, to Rome, go fishing with me for the day. $300 is all it costs. All you got to do is go to the Fishing Chaos website or to their app and find me under their guide services, and you'll be able to sign up. So can't beat it. So, oh, I got one more question I got to jump on. Nick, he jumped on it. He says, how did you do on Leech Lake? Heard you mention it a couple of times on it's an hour from me. So I fished it in September years ago. I was at a pro staff conference for Alumacraft boats. And I had been watching the weather for 3 or 4 days before I got there. And it had been a nice dead south wind for the 3 days before I got there. And so I went straight north into Sucker Bay, and because the wind had been blowing into Sucker Bay the whole time. And I caught 80 between me and the guys in my boat. We caught 80 fish the first day I was on Leech Lake, all between 3 and 5 pound largemouth. We were calling our shots by the middle of the day, just flipping matted grass. They've got a lot of wild rice up in that area. So the rice had broken up in all that wind and matted up in the back of a Sucker Bay and into the grass in Sucker Bay. So, dude, it was a blast, man. Oh, we caught so many stinking fish. So, all right, I'm going to jump off of here, guys. I love you guys. I appreciate you listening today. Listen to me run off at the mouth. You guys are awesome. For all those who donated using Super Chat, I appreciate it. It really does. That helps and goes a long ways. But like I always say, be sure to introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go out and catch some fish and have a great day. We'll see you.